A thread from Carlos Osuita. Dear Tim Pool, again, people ask me why I write threads to you. Because I like you. I know you're concerned. But you need to have a little faith in Donald Trump. This thread is in response to a video from Tim Pool entitled, SJW's just formally declared a coup at the New York Times. This won't end well. The reality is that we will never have a civil war here. Never. Look at the current madness. We're all armed. Have we gone out and mowed down leftists in retaliation? No. Let me tell you what happened in my little city in California a few nights ago. The city announced an emergency curfew that began at 8 p.m. All the stores closed. For the first time in 30 years, the church down the street didn't light the bell tower. There are 4 giant radio masts that I can see from my house. For the first time in 30 years, they turned off the red blinking anti-collision lights. All civilian air traffic was rerouted. All freight trains stopped. Earlier that morning, I'd gone to the 7-Eleven and spoken to 2 LA County Sheriff's Department deputies. They've been very stressed out lately. It was an older, 35-ish, shaven-headed man and a very young man who looked like he was out of high school. So how are you guys? I asked. The older deputy said, excellent. He seemed delirious with joy. The younger deputy looked haunted. Really busy, he said. Big day. Busy day. I'd heard no sirens all day. You guys be careful, I said. Always, said the joyful deputy. I will. The main duty is to get home to your family every night, the younger one said. Both were buying massive energy drinks. So, at 8 p.m., an eerie silence fell over the city. No traffic at all. At around 8:30, I heard what I thought were stadium-sized mortar fireworks going off, followed by what sounded like a string of M80s. All my neighbors set off illegal fireworks night and day. At around 9:30, a C-130 Hercules flew over my house. I recognized the engine sound. Now I share my screen for the rest of this. A Saudi C-130, insane terrain hugging low flight. You won't hear it, but you will see this insane low flight. That's a C-130 Hercules. At 10 p.m., everything went back to normal, as if a switch had been thrown. Now, I read lots of counterintelligence reports, and my city is a hub for the Gulf cartels and MS-13. Something happened. Vice President Pence explained today from Pence, we have no tolerance for violence against any individual in this country, no tolerance for police brutality, and no tolerance for rioting in the streets or looting, the destruction of property, or the claiming of innocent lives, including the lives of law enforcement. That's one of the reasons the president took the strong action earlier this week, working with governors to deploy resources and personnel to our streets. And I'm pleased to report that in cities across the country, we've quelled the violence and made space for peaceful protesters to continue to let their voice be heard. From whitehouse.gov. Trump is a student of the Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu. From Sun Tzu, let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. Trump will always distract, misdirect, and deceive. When he said he'd send in the military, he let everyone think he meant sending in conventional forces to stand around with rifles the way they did in Watts and in Los Angeles. No, This was way different. The governor of Minnesota said they had well-trained urban terrorists from foreign countries. Remember how the violence stopped in one night? The cops released a funny statement that they stopped all the cars full of tools to wreak havoc, and in every case, the passengers escaped on foot. Do you believe that? In every single case? Witnesses said that these guys were breaking into buildings and setting fires in seconds. They were firing on and using improvised explosive devices on the cops and firefighters. One night, the governor said that there weren't enough cops and National Guard in the whole state. The next night, the violence was over, and they captured all the cars without license plates being used by the well-trained urban terrorists. But even with police helicopters, all the people in the cars escaped. Imagine that. One of the reasons James Mattis was fired as Secretary of Defense was that he refused to adapt to Trump's vision of the armed forces. The other reason Mattis was fired was that he was trying to start a war with Iran. More young men and women sent into the meat grinder. You should study the Battle of Mosul. Saudi, the people you hate, Emirati, Bahraini, and almost certainly Omani commandos fought the way Trump is transforming our armed forces. Small units called combined arms micro teams are virtually autonomous. Each team has all the weapons it needs: one infantry squad, one sniper squad, one mortar squad, one tank, and one aircraft. The aircraft can be fixed wing or rotary. Other components can be added as necessary: detached machine gun squads, hand grenade squads, and grenade launcher squads roam the battlefield, fighting or answering calls. See, the secret is the digital battlefield map. Every single soldier and vehicle appears on the map as a dot assigned a number. The generals give their men an objective. The colonels relay that objective to the majors, who each have several captains and lieutenants order their command. Each micro team is commanded by a captain or lieutenant. The micro teams decide for themselves how to best take the objective. In Mosul, Iraqi generals went to the front lines to be briefed, not to give orders. Majors watched all their micro teams and reported to colonels, who briefed the generals. The generals saw everything on digital maps. In all the videos I saw of Mosul, the generals only asked questions. Some of these men are in their 60s. They all adapted to the new technology immediately. Because there were no well-defined front lines, the generals were able to get as close to the fighting as possible. They traveled unarmed, with one or two staffers. After October of 2015, the Iraqis lost no generals in combat. They were protected by drones. October of 2015 was when the Iraqis asked the Saudis for help. Over the next 2 years, not once were the foreign Arab assault troops filmed. Iraqis were trained in Saudi Arabia and in the UAE, and as they became proficient, they replaced the foreigners. Virtually all Iraqi Jews fled to Israel decades ago. Some came back to help. This old commando is an Iraqi Jew, which is why he covers his head indoors. The man filming was given the stink eye by all the Iraqi commandos in the room. Obviously, they feel close to the Jewish Iraqi, a veteran of the IDF. When the Jewish Iraqi took off his handkerchief, the young commandos glared at the cameraman. Okay, that one, and this one gives the cameraman a glare. Just one more look at that guy. Look at the really scary guy on the left. He doesn't like the fact that the Jewish Iraqi uncovered his head. He's the scary one, obviously. Hates it. I call the man on the left the angel of death. Except for his head, he doesn't move a muscle of his body the whole time. Note the guy on the left. Carlos calls him the angel of death. Defeating the Islamic State was an international effort by men trained by the Saudis and the Emiratis. We never saw men like this in combat. That's because they used new weapons. So, Mattis kept demanding that Trump give permission for platoon-sized units to move. Mattis also pushed for years for war, real neocon invasion occupation war with Iran. So Trump finally had enough and canned him. All these old military bastards lying about Trump are warmongers who can't accept a world in which we have binary relationships with everyone. They're obsolete. Another factor in all this is that there are 1,000 plus federal tactical teams. People are shocked and angered by that, but they better be damn grateful that we have them. This was a major attempt at insurrection, years in the planning, and it was stopped in about 3 days. Have you watched police helicopter videos? All cities are digitally mapped. From news9.com, let's take a quick look. There's a digital map right there, people. Oh, maybe it's been taken away. Well, you saw the digital map. In any event, moving right along. Quote from the article from news9.com. A new technology is making it easier for Tulsa police to find criminals from the air. The new system lets the helicopter pilot see street names or other landmarks on a computer in the cockpit. The feds have mapped every city in the country. So the Mosul battlefield technology is used here. Terrorists don't have a chance. No civil war, no collapse. Trust Trump.